What's up, everyone? Aaron Negler here with Cheesehead TV, coming to you live with your Packers Daily Chat. Anywhere and everywhere you are on the internet, hopefully, because that's what we do. We're devoted to Green Bay Packers fans worldwide, and especially to everybody in the comments section. Hello, here we go. What's up, Stewie? How you doing? What's up, Mr. Steez? That's quite the handle there. Ted Thompson kept the Packers relevant. We were in the playoffs most years. Isn't that the goal? Punch a ticket to the dance and see what happens. I mean, there's so much to be said about Ted Thompson after he was inducted into the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame on Saturday night. I know there is a vocal minority of Packers fans who do not appreciate what Mr. Thompson did for the organization. I think most Packer fans do recognize his greatness, the ability, as you say, to keep the franchise not just relevant, but thriving. 8 straight playoff appearances, second longest streak in the 100-year history of the league. Obviously making the call not only to draft Aaron Rodgers, but then to move on from Brett Favre for Aaron Rodgers and to stand behind that decision when Favre decided he wanted to come back. All of those things are pretty momentous and decisions that no internet commenter without a avatar trolling people online would ever have the balls to make. So to me, Ted Thompson going into the Packers Hall of Fame is an absolute no-brainer. The man is an absolute legend, and I'm glad he got his due on Saturday night there in Green Bay. Let's see. Tell me why Shaun Gary is not Dayton Jones Part 2. He's a hell of a lot more of an athlete, and the way Mike Pettin is most likely going to use him all over the defensive front will be much different than Dom Capers employed Dayton Jones. What's your best Ted story? Okay, Andy. I teased this on Twitter earlier. I don't think it's really a tease because I think most people have heard the story, but if you haven't, this is my favorite Ted Thompson story. It's not the greatest story ever. There are probably others that are better and more fun, more insightful, etc., but it is by far and away my favorite Ted story. Maggie put up a quote from Insider Inbox from Mike Spofford earlier today. Mike told a story about Ted Thompson in the press box during the Super Bowl. This story is from Ted's first year as general manager in Green Bay. And his second year. It was Mike McCarthy's first year as head coach. And it was early in the season, I think it was week 4. And they were in the press box in Philadelphia, Monday Night Football game, where Ahmad Carroll had a rough outing. Actually, he had a pretty decent outing in the first half of the game. I think he had a number of pass breakups. He actually sacked the quarterback, who was Donovan McNabb that night. He had a promising first half. And then in the second half, everything fell apart for Ahmad Carroll, including getting beaten not once but twice by Greg Lewis. The first one, I think, was a 35 or 30-yard touchdown pass, which really started the rout, so to speak, in the second half. And this is not an urban legend. This is not something that, it's been embellished over the years. This is something that has been confirmed by many people who were not only in the press box, but who were literally sitting right next to or right by Ted Thompson when it happened. But on one of the passes, I do not know if it was the first or second touchdown pass, but there was a moment of silence because you're supposed to be quiet in the press box, but there was a huge touchdown pass to Greg Lewis. This is a beat. And then all you heard was the voice of Ted Thompson saying, Greg fucking Lewis. And the next day, Ahmad Carroll was cut. That is stone cold Ted Thompson. That is my favorite Ted Thompson story of all time. Anyway. I better not watch too many Savage clips or I'll spend too much of the summer thinking about football. You say that like it's a bad thing. I'm here to tell you. Clip this for posterity, save it for the season, send it to Old Takes, Exposed, whatever you got to do. Savage is going to be a baller in the NFL, and he is going to completely help bring the Packers defense to a level we have not seen in a very long time. He is going to be a player. Enough said. Aaron, I know you're a Chelsea fan, but did you see that company goal? Yes, I saw it. Entitled Town. Yeah, there's some of that. Should we harbor any concern for Shaun Gary's shoulder issue? Brandon, I'd be lying if I said, yeah, no, don't worry about it. Obviously, the medical staff has signed off on it. Obviously, they don't seem too concerned about it. But it's hard not to be, right? When the guys had that issue, and we're already dealing with Kevin King and his shoulder issue, and you're just waiting for that first game or that first practice when all of a sudden that alert pops up on Twitter, Shaun Gary had to exit. Seems like there's a problem. He's grabbing his shoulder. You're just kind of waiting for that, aren't you? I know I am. So, yes, please, by all means, don't worry about it. But I think it's only natural you're going to worry about it. Who do you think will back up Rodgers this season? Daniel sure seems to be pointing to Kaiser or the number 3 guy. What was his name again? Packers claim Joel Davis from the Giants. Is that true? It's probably happening as I'm sitting here. Mock drafts get old, but draft grades after a week drive me crazy. William, it's just a thought experiment. It used to drive me nuts too, because we all know it's kind of ridiculous and they're really not worth the pixels they're printed with. But, it's an initial impressions and something to digest in this long summer while we wait for actual football. Ted Thompson did a lot of great things for the Packers. Last 2 to 3 years were not great, though. Deborah, while I agree, I would caution you and I would remind everyone of Rob Demovsky's reporting. And when people look at Ted Thompson's final years, his kind of final part of his tenure, and they want to break him down and rip him apart, I get all that. I get it. It was suboptimal. And there are definitely aspects that you can point to him and say, this is a problem, or that was his fault, etc. However, there are certain personnel calls, such as allowing Micah Hyde to walk or letting Julius Peppers go, that, according to Rob Demovsky's reporting, were Russ Ball's calls to make, or were made by Russ Ball, period. So it's just hard for me to sit here knowing that that's the case and not wonder, okay, Ted was clearly kind of breaking down, kind of losing it. Still the general manager, though. How many other calls were somebody else's? Again, I don't have those answers. I don't know. But I'm more than willing to give the man who drafted Aaron Rodgers and stuck with him through the drama of 2008, I'm more than happy to give him the benefit of the doubt. Is there a huge difference between Dexter Williams and David Montgomery? For me, it's the balance. Montgomery has got uncanny balance, especially in the phone booth, so to speak, when he's running between the tackles. Not to say Dexter Williams can't do it. I think Williams is a great one-cut runner, a guy who really sets up his blocks well, puts his foot in the ground and gets upfield. But to me, Montgomery, not just the balance, but his ability after contact. He's a special back, in my opinion, when it comes to that aspect. Not that Williams can't be, but right now, looking at their games, those are the 2 things that kind of set Montgomery apart. Let's take a look at Twitter, shall we? See what's going on in the old tweet machine as Bryce starts us off with, how much sway do you think Pettine had with getting Gary, and when do you think we will hear from Pettine next? Well, I do know, in a couple weeks they're going to have their next kind of OTA practices, if not, I think next week or the week after. I'm sure we'll get the offensive staff one kind of outing, and then the next outing we'll get the defensive staff. So, or vice versa. So in the next few weeks, I don't doubt we'll hear from Pettine and the guys on his staff. As for how much sway he had, I would highly doubt that he, had much in regards to kind of banging the table, saying, we got to get this guy, etc. But I do think it would be hard to ignore what he was able to do with Muhammad Wilkerson when Wilkerson came out. A similar player who could potentially line up all across the front. That wasn't the book on Wilkerson coming out, and that could certainly be the way that, Pettine tries to build up Gary. And if he can do half the work he did with Wilkerson when it comes to Gary, Packers fans and people inside 1265 Lombardi will be very happy. Other than Lane Taylor, who should make the roster, which current Packer is the most likely cut candidate? How do you see LaFleur and Goody dividing the roster spots among tight ends and wide receivers? Well, in that last part, it's really impossible to say until we start seeing some of these guys on the field. There's a lot of ways it could play out, but to your initial question, I don't think that any of the tight ends past maybe Jimmy Graham are really safe. With the selection of Jace in the third round, you know, there's every possibility maybe they decide that Mercedes Lewis is, you know, they get to camp and they like what they see and they think he's expendable. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it's a possibility. Though there's a couple of those across the roster. Big hypothetical, says Matthew. Big, huge hypothetical. Say Madison, McCray, and Taylor prove to be decent guards, with Jenkins and Turner being able to play guard or tackle, would the Packers consider trading/cutting Brian Bulaga for picks, especially if they see a potential cheaper cap casualty available? Well, okay, the last part doesn't make sense, because if you've got the cap space, which they do, to keep Bulaga around, he's the best player at that position, far and away. Yes, could Turner slide over and play tackle? Yes, we've seen him do that in his career, but not at the level Bulaga has when he's out there. I'd much rather keep Turner and those guys as possibilities to step over if and when probably Bulaga goes down, but just to cut him just to save some money and then go get a cheap alternative, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. He's one of the best tackles in the league when he's on the field. If someone did want to trade for him, maybe, but I would be absolutely shocked if someone wanted to give up draft capital to go get a guy who, I mean, you know, is basically Darth Vader out there, more machine now than man. So, I mean, I never say never, but I'd be very surprised. Which undrafted free agent are you most intrigued by? Well, you know, I've been saying Eaton, the wide receiver out of Iowa State, but I like the Shepherd kid they picked up today. He's intriguing. He's the kind of guy they could put in the slot. He's a return guy, so maybe he gets some play there, maybe makes a run for Davis's job. But again, a lot of it comes down to, we read about these guys, and it's all very exciting, but you got to see them on the field. You got to see them against NFL-level competition. That's the book on all of that. Let's head back over to the live chat, see what's going on here. I hope Bulaga stays healthy all season long. Hey, you and me both. Brian Bulaga, Iowa. What's up, Matub? Why would you want a great player to be cut? That's a good question, Lupo. Is Ted Thompson a Pro Football Hall of Fame GM? Travis, I know all of his guys think he is, which sways me over to the argument that, yeah, I think he is. I doubt he'll ever get in, but I'm pulling for him. Will King make it to week 3 without an injury? Yes. The way the Packers' chain of command is structured, it kind of disperses accountability/criticism when things don't go well and praise when things do go well. Yes and no. I mean, the product on the field, the way the game is handled, that's LaFleur's. The personnel on the field, that's Gutekunst's. And the contracts are Ball's. So they all report to the same guy, but I don't think it's that much different. You know, it's like, yes, if they win games because they have vastly better personnel, well, then that's on Gutekunst. Now, obviously, a lot of that blends, but yeah, I don't think it's that big a problem. Oh man, did I see Adam Sandler's Chris Farley tribute on Saturday Night Live? I did, and it choked me up. Thanks for having these chat snags. Love talking football all year long. Hey, that's why I'm here. I love talking football all year long. So it's good. We got that in common. Last night's Game of Thrones was better than the battle episode, and I love the battle episode. Oh, buddy, you are aptly named because, oh, buddy, I could not disagree more. I thought last night was a lot of fan service junk, but each their own. Ha! Did you have a good time at the Kentucky Derby with Rogers this weekend? I would have if I'd been invited. Is it not a given that the Packers medical staff examined Gary's shoulder? Yeah, absolutely it is. It's also a given that they examined Kevin King's shoulder, and we all see how that worked out. Do the Packers double their sack total from last season? Whew! I doubt it doubling, but I think they'll increase it. But doubling, I mean, they actually sacked the quarterback with some regularity last year. What is Shaun Gary's ceiling? Muhammad Wilkerson before his contract, before his big contract. Do you see us grabbing a veteran corner after cap casualty season or stick with what we have? They actually grabbed a vet corner this morning. Sullivan, a one-year player that was cut by the Eagles. He actually started a game last year. I encourage you not to go and watch it because woof. But he could be a help on special teams. We had quite a many sacks last year. Yes, Brandon, they did. I was kind of surprised, actually. You don't think of it because you remember all the third and longs when they couldn't get to the quarterback, but they actually did sack the quarterback quite a bit. I just can't remember off the top of my head what the exact number was. Are you excited for the joint practices this year? Yes, 100%. I'm actually trying to get J.J. Watt involved in a piece of content we're going to be doing while we're in camp, so stay tuned for that. Hey, speaking of which, stay tuned for Nagler's Never Right tomorrow. I have a very special guest coming on, and there's no way they're canceling, because if they cancel, all hell will break loose. But, little tease for you. Tomorrow, late afternoon, it'll probably go up. If you're not a member of the Patreon, you're going to want to fix that. Big special guest coming tomorrow on Nagler's Never Right. Who's your best NFL comparison for Savage? Ryan, I don't want to get through the moon, but but the hell, it's amongst friends, right? I know I saw Doug Farrar posted a Bob Sanders gif this morning when we were talking about him, which I can totally see that, but I see Earl Thomas. I really do. Now, obviously, no one's Earl Thomas. He's a very special player, but I'll take Earl Thomas light, which is what I think Savage can be. Every time I see the word committee, I get so sad for Aaron Jones. Don't! The guy, it'll help him stay on the field. I mean, okay, look, the idea that McCarthy had of using three backs was fine in the sense that he wanted to keep Jones fresh, and I got all that. The problem I had was with the divvying up of the snaps in such a regimented way. You get this series, you get this series, you get this series, with no thought to kind of game flow or how another guy was doing. Like, if this guy caught fire, okay, use him. But no, a guy would catch fire, and then it would be like, okay, now it's the other guy's series. Like, what? So, yeah, I get what you're saying as far as, especially if it's a fantasy thing. Like, I get you want him to ride Aaron Jones. But I think a three-back committee, especially in an offense that, every indication from LaFleur is that they're going to want to run the football quite a bit. I think it's a good thing. I think it helps him. Next is going to interview Ahmad Carroll. Man, I wish. Do I think the Packers have interest in Richie Incognito? No. Do you think they will announce Jordy's retirement as a Packer before the season starts? Yes, I do. I know Jordy had mentioned that publicly a couple weeks ago, that they were working on the one-year deal, the one-day deal, sorry, 1 year. The one-day deal. I think, yeah, I would be surprised if that doesn't happen sometime before training camp. Bring back Sam Shields. The guy has proven he can play again. I love Sam, but they've moved on. Hard to get the rhythm that way. I totally agree. Is Dexter Williams a similar comp to our own Ryan Grant? Yeah, I'm down with that. I actually think he's a little more fluid than Ryan was on the field. He reminds me of Tony Fisher, actually. That's an old school one there for you. Who's the best Packers safety of all time? Come on, it's Leroy Butler. That's not even a question. Nelson signing one-year deal confirmed per Nagler. Let me jump into my whiskey real quick. How did John Kuhn get on the Packers official website? Well, they called him and they said, would you like to be on the Packers official website? Well, no, he's been wanting to do broadcast stuff for a long time. I actually talked to him a couple years ago when he was out here in Jersey with the broadcast boot camp. And he had done some radio, I know, down with ESPN Milwaukee. And I think I had heard that iHeartRadio was going after him as well to do something with them. But I think the Packers saw a guy who clearly the fan base has an affinity for him, and they brought him on board. And I think so far he's doing a great job. Chuck Cecil. Love me some Chuck Cecil. Did you see the Brant tweet about Dorsey saying the fifth rounder that couldn't play after minicamp? Absolutely. I mean, sometimes you see guys and it just kind of clicks. when you see it. I remember J-Ron Elliott's rookie year when he was an undrafted free agent. That first day, you went and you saw it and you could see a guy. It was the first day with pads. And I did a blog post about it. I was like, they got this kid who, you know, I'm not sitting here saying he's going to be Reggie White, but you can tell he's got some bend, he's got some ability. Sometimes you see it, and it kind of jumps off the field, both in a positive and a negative way. Butler over Collins, I'm not disagreeing, but it's really close. Nathan, my child. You're right, it's not close. It's not close for Collins. Nick Collins was a great center fielder and a great player on a championship team, but Leroy Butler changed the game, son. Leroy Butler was the first 2020 man. Leroy Butler came down into the box, blitzed the quarterback, took on tight ends, played the run, intercepted the football, could cover anybody. In the Super Bowl, Mike Shanahan designed his entire offensive attack around negating Leroy Butler. Not Reggie White, Leroy Butler. I love Nick Collins. But he was no Leroy Butler. Sorry. It's Darren Sharper. Ahmad Carroll won a Grey Cup in 2012. Stop the hate. Hey, no hate here. No hate. Although maybe there's some hate here going on. What will Cheesehead TV be doing for training camp? William, I'm glad you asked. Stay tuned. We have a lot of things in the works, a lot of balls in the air. Hoping to announce stuff soon. Got some I's to dot and some T's to cross, but hopefully we'll be letting you guys in on the exciting news very, very soon. McGinn confirmed for tomorrow. I'd love to have Bob on the show. That'd be a good time. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to jump. Thank you so much for all the questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to yours. Please like, subscribe, share on Facebook, tweet it out, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your enemies, everybody. Packers Daily, cheeseheadtv.com. Devoted to Green Bay Packers fans worldwide. And hey, if you want to go to a game this year, check out the Ticket King. You can find their link on our website at cheeseheadtv.com. They've been around since 1992. They have an office right across from Lambeau Field. They have all the tickets for home and away games. If you need tickets, that's who you want to check out. And as I said, big time special guest tomorrow on Nagler's Never Right. $5 a month. You're a Patreon. You can hear it. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great night.